Today I have quite an interesting story for everyone. I met a guy who's online, he's got his own channel, but he's given me permission to share his videos, thoughts with the world. And it's a man who's been alienated from his son. In fact, he hasn't seen his son for over 2 years. And she's disappeared and nobody knows where she is. Nobody's interested in finding out where she is. And all this guy wants to do is make contact with his son. There's never been any violence or nastiness between them. Everything I've seen is documented by paper, court hearings, everything else. So I'm going to put a video together. I think I have close to 150 short videos that he's made. So I'm going to release these to you guys. So I'm going to let you have a look and you can give me your thoughts on the situation, how perhaps it could be best overcome. And it's just a really good example of how the court system has been abused. The father's been abused, and the family court system has just been manipulated in such a way that this man has now totally lost contact with his son through no fault of his own. He followed the court orders to the letter.
So how was my son removed from his school without my knowledge? How was he reschooled without my knowledge? I'm still baffled to this day. But let's look at the timing here. So for 10 glorious years, we had an amazing life. And on April the 15th, I simply driven round to my apartment where her and my son had been living for 7 months happily to simply move them into their new £1 million home that had been refurbed for them. I turned up, and as you know, I've told you the story, I was arrested. Okay, let's look at timing. That was on April the 15th, 2022. So she's made an allegation for me smashing through a door. It's got nothing to do with my son, nothing at all. The bail conditions, even when I was released that night, were normal child contact to continue. And I speak to my son every day and have done for 10 years. Never missed anything at his school. Me and his mum have been together. Anyway, on the very same day she made the allegation, she sent an email to my son's private school removing him from the school, and they have since told me, they've never showed me the email because of data protection, but they have told me, because they love me, that it cited a child issue. Now let's remember, the allegation made was not a child issue. So not only has she made a false allegation, she's then sent an email to my son's school removing him without my knowledge in the middle of half term, citing a child issue. So I have spoken to the school, believe me. My son's been at that school 7 years. Remember, the headmaster and the school governor of that school come to court with me. So let's just remember here. So, this is actually the reality. That email was received in the middle of half term. The school, after receiving that, whoever was there, took that email and then took advice on that email. And this is come from the school, so this is the advice the school were given. Don't tell the father. So you remember, my son's going back to school on May the 1st in my brain, so whatever his mum's doing, I actually thought his mum's made this allegation. She obviously wants to live in Worcester. She's now got an empty house in Worcester because her father died in March. She never told me. Obviously her mum died 3 years ago and we all loved her and looked after her, and obviously. But when her dad died, she never told me. And she never told me because as soon as her dad died, she knew then that she was going to move to Worcester. And she now lives in their dead house and she's got their money. Anyway, in my head, I think my son's going back to school on May the 1st. So I thought she's got to Worcester. She'll stay up there for a couple of weeks and that's it. So between the 15th and the 1st of May, remember, I've got no idea my son's been removed. My mother, the third party, texted her just to get my son to ring me. And obviously in them 2 weeks I never heard from my son. Now remember the bail conditions, I should be speaking to my son daily. So just before my son went back to school on the 1st of May, I rang the police and said, listen, it's been 2 weeks. The bail conditions are I should be speaking to my son daily. She is refusing to respond to any third party ringing her. It was the police that then started to ring her to plead with her to get my son to call me. She refused. It was then that the police asked her to get my son a phone so she doesn't need to be involved at all in me talking to my son. She refused. And for 6 months, the answer I was given to the police, by the police, was they can't force her to do anything. So remember, even if you get bail that says normal contact, if the mother doesn't want you to speak to your child, it means nothing, because the police will simply say they can't force her to do anything. This is worse. I rung the school at 9 o'clock on the 1st of May, because obviously all I need to make sure was my son was at school. I rung the school. I was told someone would ring me back. No one did. I rung the school at midday. I was told someone would ring me back. I'm now getting extremely concerned on the 1st of May. No one rung me back. On the 2nd, I rung the school. Remember, I've been at this school for 7 years. They all know me. And I had a feeling there was something going on. On the 2nd day, on insistence, I got through to the deputy head, who said, you need to ring this number. I was given a number. I rung that number, and that number was social services. Can you imagine the fear going through my body now? I ring this number. Do you know what they said to me? Hi, why are you ringing? I said, I don't know, I've been given this number by my son's school. They said, no, look, you're nothing to do with us. Now, in a way, I was so thankful for that. I thought, well, that's good. Maybe the school made a mistake. So I rung back the school. Someone said they'd ring me back. It wasn't until the 3rd of May, the headmaster at the time took my call and said, Mr. D, I'm so sorry to say Boyce has been removed from this school. Can you imagine, after spending £150,000 on school fees, never missing anything my son has ever been to at that school, going with his mother to every event for 7 years. His mother has been on the WhatsApp group for 7 years and has told me where to go and at what time for 7 years. That same school is now telling me my son, who was captain of the football team A team, in the rugby team A team, loved by all parents, loved by the kids, has been removed from his school for 7 years, and I had no idea. Now, no one's even had the decency to tell me what's going on with my son's education. I spent 150 grand on his education. I've been fully involved. It's appalling, but this is what else is worse. On the 3rd of May, I then got the non-molestation application. So I don't only find out my son's been removed, I get the non-molestation application. Worse, I then spend a few days trying to work out what school he would have gone to, and I actually found out that my son had been reschooled and started a new school on the 1st of May. 15 days after his removal in the middle of half term. So I'm still baffled to how that's happened. A father's meant to know if his son is being reschooled. His father's meant to know if his son's being taken out of a school. But let me tell you this, the one thing I've learned in court is no one cares. Do you know how many times in court I've said, can someone please tell me how my son's been? No one cares. Once the deed is done, it's done. But this is the real killer. My son then stayed at a school between May and July, that's the end of term, and I rang that school once, and within 30 seconds of that phone call, I had a phone call from Worcester Police, and this is what Worcester Police said. Thanks for ringing the school, and this is important, you haven't done anything wrong. I said, I know, I've just rung the school that I found out my son's at. You haven't done anything wrong, it's an important sentence. But the school would rather you email them. It was almost as if the mother had said to that school, if the dad rings at any moment, he's a lunatic, cut him off, and that's exactly the feeling I got. So the police said the school would rather you email them. I emailed that school 17 times between May and July as a father and never got a response. Ever. No one cares. Then I found out my son had been interviewed and was starting a school on 1st of September 2022 without my knowledge. I spoke to the headmaster of his new school that he was starting on the 2nd of September. This is how the conversation went. I went, hi there, apparently my son is joining your school on the 2nd of September. He went, yeah, he is. I interviewed him a couple of days ago. Lovely young man. I said, yeah, he's beautiful. He said, yeah. I said, okay. I said, can I just ask, does anyone ask about daddies? And he said, I'm going to be totally honest with you because I can see how you talk. He said, we don't have to ask about daddies. If your son turns up at this school with his mother, is interviewed for the school, we have no reason to ask about fathers. I said, okay, now you know that his father has been fully invested in his education and just wants to watch his son play football, be involved in his education. What happens now? He said, you are welcome to this school to watch your son. And do you know how good that made me feel? Because whatever his mum's up to, there's no reason why I shouldn't be going to watch my son play football, support my son as I've done forever. But this is the real killer. On the 1st of September, he rang me, bearing in mind the school starts on the 2nd. And he said, I'm just going to let you know that today I rang the mother of your son to inform her that you are welcome at this school to watch your son, as you've always done. And she instantly removes him from this school. And that is when, in December 2023, I found out that since that date, he had been homeschooled. Homeschooled, so he'd gone from 7 years of private education, being parental alienated, and now he's being homeschooled by the same person as parental alienating him. And the system think this is all fine. I have never once been told about my son's education from the second he was taken on April the 15th, 2022, after him having grade A reports for 7 consecutive years. And this is what I've learned in court. Once it's done, no one cares about the law.